You know exactly what you need to do, but something invisible keeps blocking your path. Hours turn into days, days into months, and that goal that should change your life remains a distant ghost. While others move forward, you stay trapped in an endless cycle of preparation. What you don't realize is that it's not lack of knowledge, resources, or luck holding you back. It's something much deeper, mental prison, so familiar you don't even see it anymore. In the next few minutes, I'll show you how to unlock the power that already exists within you, but has been systematically sabotaged by patterns you don't even notice. This isn't just another empty promise. It's an awakening that separates those who merely dream from those who actually achieve. Because if you don't break this pattern now, you'll continue watching your true potential slip through your fingers as life passes by. Your mind is the most powerful force in your universe, yet you've unknowingly programmed it to keep you exactly where you are. Napoleon Hill, after studying 500 of the world's most successful people for over 20 years, discovered a shocking truth. Most people fail not because of external circumstances, but because of a repeating pattern in their thinking they can't even see. This pattern is so subtle, so ingrained in your daily habits that it has become invisible to you. Yet it dictates every result in your life with merciless precision. Think about it. You've read the books. You've watched the videos. You've taken the courses. You know what you should be doing, but something keeps stopping you from taking consistent action. That something is what Napoleon Hill exposed after interviewing Andrew Carnegie, Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, and hundreds of other world changers who had broken free from this pattern. Each time you've tried to elevate your life, have you noticed how things mysteriously return to normal? That's not coincidence, that's this invisible pattern running on autopilot. The difference between those who transform their lives and those who stay stuck isn't talent or opportunity, it's whether they recognize and break this mental loop Hill identified nearly a century ago. The most dangerous prison is the one where you can't see the bars. And right now, as you read these words, you're sitting in a cell of your own making, wondering why the door won't open when you're the one who's been locking it all along. What will it take for you to finally see the bars that have been in front of you this entire time? Because, until you do, no amount of information, motivation, or opportunity will change your life. Success without a definite purpose is like trying to navigate without a destination. You end up wherever the wind blows you. Napoleon Hill called it your definite chief aim. That singular, crystal-clear purpose that organizes all your thoughts and actions. But here's the pattern that's keeping you stuck. You think you have a clear purpose, but what you actually have is a vague wish, clouded by a dozen competing priorities. This mental fragmentation is precisely what Hill discovered in the unsuccessful masses. The world's highest achievers, from Edison to Ford to Carnegie, all shared one trait. They could state their primary purpose in a single sentence with such clarity that it became the organizing principle for every waking moment. Their purpose wasn't something they worked on when they had time, it was the filter through which they made every decision. Look at your own life right now. How many unfinished projects do you have? How many priorities are you juggling? This divided focus isn't just slowing you down, it's the exact pattern Hill identified as the precursor to failure. When your mental energy splits between too many targets, you hit none of them with sufficient force to break through. Remember Barnes, the man who was determined to partner with Edison. He didn't have multiple backup plans or alternative goals. He had one definite chief aim: to work with Edison. When he arrived without an invitation or appointment, he didn't say, "I'd like to work with you, but I'm also considering other options." His singular focus was so powerful that Edison eventually gave him the opportunity that made him wealthy. The question isn't whether you have goals, it's whether you have the goal that consumes you, organizes you, and wakes you up at night with its urgency. Without this, you're not really pursuing success. You're just hoping it finds you while you keep busy with lesser things. Will you continue dividing your finite mental energy among a dozen half-commitments, or will you finally choose one definite chief aim that deserves your full power? You think you're failing alone, but Hill discovered that achievement never happens in isolation. One of the most profound principles Napoleon Hill uncovered was the mastermind concept, the coordination of knowledge and effort between two or more people to achieve a specific purpose. Yet the pattern keeping you stuck is the belief that success is a solo journey, that asking for help or collaboration somehow diminishes your achievement. Look at yourself right now. How many hours do you spend in isolation, planning, thinking, and worrying, versus how many hours you spend deliberately masterminding with others who can elevate your thinking? Hill found that every single great fortune began from an alliance of minds working in perfect harmony toward a shared objective. Henry Ford, despite having limited formal education, built one of history's greatest industrial empires. How? Not through isolated genius, but by surrounding himself with a mastermind group of brilliant thinkers. When questioned during a lawsuit about his intelligence, Ford simply said he could press a button on his desk and summon people who could answer any question asked of him. That wasn't arrogance, it was a perfect demonstration of the mastermind principle. Yet you continue to struggle alone, mistaking independence for strength, when the true pattern of success has always been strategic interdependence. Your isolation isn't just slowing your progress, it's ensuring you stay trapped in the same mental loops that have kept you where you are. The mind-blowing revelation in Hill's work is that intelligence doesn't just add in a mastermind group, it multiplies. When minds work in harmony, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. It equals 3 or more through the mysterious alchemy of collaborative thinking. The successful people Hill studied weren't necessarily the smartest individuals, they were simply the best at combining minds toward a definite purpose. Meanwhile, countless brilliant loners remained stuck in patterns of mediocrity because they never leveraged this principle. Will you continue pretending you can think your way to success in isolation? Or will you finally build the mastermind alliance that can multiply your mental power exponentially? What looks like failure to the masses is merely temporary defeat to the achiever. Perhaps the most insidious pattern Napoleon Hill identified is how differently successful people interpret failure compared to the average person. After studying hundreds of high achievers, he made a startling discovery. The most successful people had often failed more times than the average person had even tried. Thomas Edison's light bulb came after over 10,000 unsuccessful attempts. When a reporter asked how it felt to fail so many times, Edison's response revealed the mindset that separated him from the masses. "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." This wasn't positive thinking, it was a fundamentally different relationship with temporary defeat. Look at your own pattern. How many times have you tried something once or twice, faced resistance, and then quietly abandoned it while telling yourself it wasn't meant to be? This is exactly the pattern that guarantees continued frustration. Hill discovered that persistence isn't just a character trait, it's a disciplined response to temporary defeat. When average people hit a wall, they take it as evidence they should turn round. When achievers hit the same wall, they take it as information on how to adjust their approach. Ayu Dhabi learned this lesson at his uncle's gold mine. After discovering a vein of gold, they dug until the vein disappeared. After extensive drilling, They quit and sold the machinery to a junk man for a few $100s. That junk man brought in a mining engineer who calculated that the vein would reappear just 3 feet from where Darby had stopped drilling. The junk man extracted millions in gold from the mine because he understood what Darby didn't. Temporary defeat is not permanent failure. This pattern is running in your life right now. Each time you've started something with enthusiasm only to quietly abandon it when resistance appeared, you've reinforced the exact mental habit that Hill identified as the primary separator between achievement and mediocrity. Will you continue mistaking temporary defeats for permanent failure, or will you finally develop the persistence that turns obstacles into stepping stones? Your feelings create your reality, but you've been letting the wrong emotions drive your mental car. Perhaps the most revolutionary aspect of Napoleon Hill's work was his discovery that emotions, not just thoughts, are the primary drivers of both success and failure. Through his extensive interviews, Hill identified a clear pattern. Unsuccessful people allow themselves to be dominated by negative emotions, while achievers consciously cultivate and maintain positive emotional states regardless of circumstances. This isn't about positive thinking, as it's commonly misunderstood. Hill discovered something far more profound. Emotions act as the fuel for thought, and thought directs action. When your emotional state is predominantly negative, filled with fear, doubt, envy, or worry, literally burning toxic fuel in your mental engine, no amount of information or opportunity can overcome this emotional sabotage. Think about your own emotional patterns. When you face a setback, which emotions automatically take control? When an opportunity appears, do you feel excitement or anxiety? Hill found that these emotional responses aren't random, they're habitual, and they follow you everywhere like a shadow, influencing every decision below your conscious awareness. W. Clement Stone, who built an insurance empire by applying Hill's principles, understood this emotional dynamic clearly. During the Great Depression, when others saw only disaster, Stone saw opportunity. He didn't deny the difficult circumstances, he simply refused to let those circumstances dictate his emotional state. While competitors retreated in fear, Stone expanded aggressively, ultimately building a company worth hundreds of millions of dollars. What's truly revelatory about Hill's research is the discovery that emotions can be chosen and cultivated like any other skill. The unsuccessful believe emotions simply happen to them, they're at the mercy of circumstances. The successful, by contrast, treat emotions as tools to be selected for specific purposes. They feel fear but don't let it drive their decisions. They experience doubt but don't let it determine their actions. The pattern that's keeping you stuck is the unconscious surrender to whatever emotional state randomly appears, rather than intentionally cultivating the emotions that would drive you toward your goals. Will you continue being a passive victim of your emotional weather, or will you finally take control of the emotional forces that shape every aspect of your reality? Your subconscious mind is working 24/7, but you've accidentally programmed it to create exactly what you don't want. One of Napoleon Hill's most profound discoveries was the role of the subconscious mind in either creating success or ensuring failure. After interviewing hundreds of achievers, he realized they had all, whether knowingly or unknowingly, harnessed the power of their subconscious to work for them rather than against them. The pattern keeping you stuck is that you're trying to achieve success using only your conscious mind. The 5% of your mental capacity you're aware of, while your subconscious mind, the other 95%, is running programs that directly contradict your stated goals. Think about it. How many times have you consciously decided to start a new habit, project, or business, only to find yourself sabotaging your efforts shortly after. This isn't weakness or lack of discipline, it's your subconscious executing the programming it's received from years of repetitive thoughts, experiences, and influences. Hill found that the most successful people had found ways to reprogram their subconscious to work harmoniously with their conscious goals. Thomas Edison would deliberately enter a sleep-like state to access creative solutions from his subconscious. George Washington Carver claimed his greatest discoveries came through communing with the unseen forces within his own mind. These weren't mystical practices, they were practical techniques for aligning the vast power of the subconscious with conscious intentions. What's most alarming about Hill's finding is that your subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between what you want and what you don't want. It merely accepts the dominant thoughts you continuously feed it. When you constantly worry about failure, your subconscious interprets this as a command to create failure. When you obsess over obstacles, your subconscious works diligently to make those obstacles real. The invisible pattern keeping you stuck is the contradiction between what you say you want and what you're actually programming into your subconscious through your moment-by-moment thoughts, emotions, visualizations, and self-talk. Will you continue feeding your subconscious a diet of fears, doubts, and limitations? Or will you finally take control of the most powerful creative force you possess? Your surroundings shape your success more than your intentions. Yet you keep expecting different results in unchanged environments. After studying hundreds of success stories, Napoleon Hill made a critical observation that most personal development teachings completely miss. Your physical environment and social circle are not just passive backdrops to your journey. They are active forces that either propel you toward success or lock you in mediocrity. The pattern keeping you stuck is the expectation that your willpower alone should be enough to overcome the powerful influence of unconducive. This is like trying to sail against a hurricane using only your breath as wind. Look honestly at your daily environment. The physical spaces where you spend most of your time. The people with whom you interact most frequently. The conversations you habitually have. The media you consume. Hill discovered that successful people are ruthlessly selective about these environmental factors, intuitively understanding that they would eventually become a product of these influences. Andrew Carnegie didn't just happen to be surrounded by brilliant industrialists, he deliberately cultivated relationships with specific people who would elevate his thinking. Henry Ford wasn't randomly exposed to mechanical innovation, he intentionally placed himself in environments where such thinking was the norm. These weren't accidents or privileges, they were strategic decisions about environmental influence. What's most concerning about your current situation is that your environment is perfectly designed to keep you exactly where you are. The books on your shelf, the notifications on your phone, the people you see daily. The physical spaces where you work and live, all of these are continuously reinforcing your existing patterns of thought and behavior. Even more alarming is Hill's finding that environmental influence works largely beneath conscious awareness. You don't notice how your aunt's subtle comments about realistic expectations are programming limitation. You don't register how your cluttered workspace is fragmenting your mental focus. You don't recognize how your friends' habitual complaints are shaping your own expectation of obstacles. The invisible pattern keeping you stuck is the gap between the environment required for your success and the environment you're currently tolerating. Will you continue expecting breakthrough results in surroundings designed for mediocrity? Or will you finally engineer an environment that makes success the path of least resistance? Your life is the sum of your decisions, but you've been deciding from the wrong part of your mind. in what might be his most counterintuitive discovery. Napoleon Hill found that successful people make decisions differently than the average person, not just in what they decide, but in how they decide. After interviewing hundreds of high achievers, Hill noticed they shared a decision-making pattern that defied conventional wisdom. The unsuccessful make decisions primarily from their logical, analytical mind weighing pros and cons, creating elaborate plans, and seeking perfect information before committing. The successful, by contrast, make decisions first from intuition and emotion, what Hill called hunches or the sixth sense, and then use logic merely to execute those decisions, not to make them. This pattern is keeping you stuck in analysis paralysis. You've been taught that good decisions come from gathering more information, creating more detailed plans, and eliminating all risk, but Hill's research showed this approach often leads to hesitation, missed opportunities, and perpetual preparation without action. Consider Henry Ford, who decided to build his V8 engine despite his engineers insisting it was impossible. When they presented logical arguments about why it couldn't be done, Ford simply responded, "Produce it anyway." His decision wasn't based on technical feasibility, came from a deeper intuitive knowing that overruled surface-level logic. Or examine Thomas Edison's decision to pursue the incandescent light bulb. The logical evidence, overwhelming, suggested failure after all. He eventually tried over 10,000 approaches that didn't work. If he had decided based purely on analytical evidence, he would have abandoned the project after the first few hundred attempts. What's particularly revelatory about Hill's finding is that the most pivotal decisions, the ones that actually changed the trajectory of people's lives, were rarely made through careful analysis. They were intuitive leaps, often made quickly and with incomplete information, but with absolute commitment. The pattern that's keeping you stuck is waiting for perfect certainty before deciding. When the successful know that certainty only comes after decision and action, never before. Will you continue demanding risk-free guarantees before committing? Or will you finally make decisions with the decisive intuitive intelligence that has launched every great achievement in history? Your level of desire determines your level of achievement, but you've been wanting success with divided energy. Of all Napoleon Hill's discoveries, perhaps none is more fundamental than the role of desire in creating success or ensuring failure. After studying hundreds of remarkable achievers, Hill concluded that the intensity of one's desire, not talent, education, or circumstances, is the primary determinant of achievement. The pattern keeping you stuck is a critical disparity. You want success, but not with the bone-deep, consuming obsession that Hill found in every single high achiever he studied. Your desire is casual, conditional, and competing with numerous other interests. This lukewarm wanting dooms you before you begin. Edwin C. Barnes didn't just want to partner with Thomas Edison, he was consumed by it. He didn't have the money for train fare to meet Edison, so he hopped a freight car and arrived looking like a tramp. What he lacked in resources, he made up for in the intensity of his desire. Edison later said it was Barnes' unmistakable determination, not his skills or background, that convinced him to give the young man an opportunity that eventually made Barnes wealthy. Or consider Fannie Hurst, who received 36 consecutive rejections before selling her first short story. She wallpapered her room with rejection slips as fuel for her desire, rather than evidence of failure. Her burning obsession with becoming a writer allowed her to persist where casual interest would have surrendered long before. What's particularly alarming about your situation is that you've been taught to have reasonable desires to want success, but not too much. To pursue goals, but maintain work-life balance. To chase dreams, but keep your options open. This middle path feels wise and mature. But Hill's research exposes it as the subtle sabotage that keeps people stuck in mediocrity. The pattern that's invisibly limiting your achievement is the gap between your casual wanting and the white-hot obsession required for extraordinary results. You've been wanting success the way you want dessert after dinner, something you'd enjoy having, but could easily live without. This is fundamentally different from wanting it the way you want air underwater, desperate, non-negotiable necessity. Will you continue wanting success as a preference, or will you finally cultivate the burning obsession that has fueled every remarkable achievement in history? Your beliefs set the ceiling on your achievements, but you've been trying to create results that exceed your belief threshold. In his exhaustive study of high achievers, Napoleon Hill made a discovery so profound that he devoted an entire chapter to it in Think and Grow Rich. The concept of faith as a practical force in achievement, not merely a religious principle. What Hill discovered was that, in every single case of extraordinary success, the achiever had developed an unshakable belief in their ability to accomplish their goal long before physical evidence supported that belief. The pattern keeping you stuck is attempting to create results that exceed your current belief threshold. Your conscious mind sets goals your subconscious mind doesn't actually believe are possible for you, creating an invisible ceiling that blocks your progress no matter how hard you work. Mahatma Gandhi mobilized millions without wealth or political office because his faith in his mission was so absolute it inspired similar faith in others. Henry Ford maintained his belief in the V8 engine through months of failed attempts because his faith wasn't dependent on external validation or immediate results. The most alarming aspect of Hill's finding is that beliefs operate largely beneath conscious awareness. You don't go around explicitly thinking success isn't possible for me, yet your actions, decisions, and subtle self-sabotage reveal the actual beliefs running your life behind the scenes. Even more concerning is Hill's discovery that these belief thresholds are primarily established through repetition and emotional intensity, not logic or evidence. The beliefs currently governing your life were largely installed through the repeat messaging you received growing up, from authority figures, peer groups, and cultural conditioning. This isn't something you consciously chose, was programmed into you. The invisible pattern keeping you stuck is the gap between what you say you want to achieve and what you deeply believe is possible or appropriate for you personally. Until these come into alignment, you'll continue experiencing the frustration of working hard with limited results. What separates the breakthroughs in your life from the breakdowns isn't the quality of your strategy. It's whether your belief threshold supports or contradicts your conscious intention. Will you continue trying to force results that exceed your belief threshold, or will you finally develop the absolute faith that has preceded every remarkable achievement throughout history? You've now seen the repeated pattern that has been invisibly sabotaging your success. The prison wasn't built by outside force, it was constructed thought by thought, habit by habit, belief by belief, within your own mind. What Napoleon Hill discovered after 20 years of studying the world's highest achievers wasn't just another success formula, it was the fundamental operating system that either creates extraordinary executed achievement or ensures continued frustration. The definite chief aim that organizes every thought and action. The mastermind alliance that multiplies intellectual capacity. The transformed relationship with temporary defeat. The emotional management that fuels unstoppable momentum. The subconscious programming that works for you rather than against you. The environmental design that makes success inevitable. The decision-making that taps into intuitive intelligence. The bone-deep desire that overrides all obstacles. the unshakable faith that precedes physical results. These aren't separate techniques, they're interconnected elements of a single success pattern that either works in harmony to create achievement or works in contradiction to ensure limitation. The most profound realization from Hill's work is that this pattern isn't something you need to create from scratch. It's already operating in your life right now. The only question is whether it's working for you or against you. You stand at a crossroads. One path leads back to the familiar, the comfortable prison of limitation you've been living in, where potential remains just that potential, never fully realized. The other path leads to the person you've always known you could become. If only you would finally break the pattern that's been keeping you stuck. This isn't just another decision. It's the decision, the one that will either keep you circling the same mountain for another decade, or finally elevate you to the summit of your capabilities. The choice is yours. But understand this: continuing to do what you've always done while expecting different results isn't just unwise. It's the very definition of the pattern Hill exposed nearly a century ago. The time for half measures and casual commitment has passed. Either decide now to implement the complete success pattern Hill discovered, or admit to yourself that you're choosing to remain where you are. What will you decide? Not just with your words, but with your actions in this moment. Because that decision will echo through every remaining day of your life.